after five, five previous books, you got marriage and babies and, what's their name and how old are they? And, so kind of keeping track of that. And I literally have like an Excel spreadsheet with keeping track of names and, you know,
Hey everyone, it's Samantha T, and welcome to another Fresh Fiction Video Book Club. We are wrapping up this month of adventure thrill seekings with the award winning author Yahrah St. John, who is admittedly a thrill seeking junkie when she is not writing her steamy and dramatic contemporary romances. So we've got to hear, in addition to all of her writing, exactly what she is doing when she is going off on these globe-trotting adventures to get those other highs. So with that, Yara, thank you so much for joining us.
thank you so much for having me.
Well,
I'm
let's start
excited to
off.
be here.
One thing, award winning, you've got over 50 books,
Yes,
right? This is your 50th book that you just released.
absolutely. Yes. Breakpoint makes my 50th book. Yeah, I can't believe it. After 20 years, I finally made it to 50.
That is amazing and such an accomplishment.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really tickled pink.
Now, normally I start off with how do people first get started writing and everything, but I kind of want to work it a little bit backwards this time because this is your 50th novel. What what kind of the focus that you need for 50 novels, 50 stories. What has been the biggest thrill for you for this 50th book?
Um, oh gosh. Yeah, it just takes a lot. I'm a very focused person. So it takes a lot of focus. I'm very fortunate that my husband Freddie gives me my space. I'm here in my study or my she study, if you will, and he allows me to come in here, close the doors, break away, and I actually work full time. So I've managed to write 50 books while working full time over the last 20 years. So I think that's an accomplishment unto itself. But yeah, I just think it takes a lot of focus and then also just the right story. When an idea comes to me that, just I've got to tell it. And so Six Gems, which is the sixth book that Breakpoint is a part of, came to me several years ago, and I just knew that I had to tell a story about these six best friends.
Well, and I love this particular series too because you've got all these different sport elements, or maybe not sport. I'm going to say more athletic elements. I'll
Yeah.
go with that. And because we were talking in the pre-party and in our name game of different sports and different books, but I love these books where yoga and ballet. These
All
are
right.
still very athletic activities, and of course tennis. Why did you choose these activities? Because this is out of the norm, and I love
It is
this.
definitely out of the norm. And I think I wanted, when I was thinking about the six best friends, wanted them to be very unique. And it was almost like their career kind of helped me spin the story. So once I knew what career path I wanted them to go down, the story kind of evolved from there. And so yeah, I didn't know anything about yoga, ballet, or tennis in these last three books. And it was eye-opening to, learn and watch movies and read some books, go to, a ballet studio. I got to interview someone who ran her own ballet studio. I got to go watch people play tennis. We have the US Tennis Association here in Lake Nona in Florida, so I got to go there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun writing about these different athletic kind of genres.
Because this is also different from so many of your other stories. I don't recall this other nuance to them, I
Yes,
guess.
yes, it is definitely a different take on some of my other stories in the past. They've been more straight contemporary romance focused. And so with Afterglow, we were kind of switching focus. I was writing for Harlequin Desire, and I switched focus, and they wanted a little more lighthearted, a little more rom-com feel, but still kind of being true to myself as, a contemporary romance author. And so we just kind of added that extra element. And I actually wasn't thinking of having tennis. The first two were actually my original ideas of going with, yoga and ballet. And they were like, well, it's the last one. You're already on a theme. They're like, yeah, come on with a sport. And it's so funny that one in the pre-party, someone mentioned racing because they asked me would I consider like doing like, car racing. And I'm like, no, that doesn't go with the character of what I had in mind for Tegan. So the tennis element is what kind of evolved when I was thinking of how to make it more sports based.
Well, and with that too, I mean, with Breakpoint, I mean, and it's not a completely sports romance either. I mean,
Right.
this is a second chance romance. That's really the
Absolutely.
core of the
Exactly.
story.
Mhm.
And I always love those second chance elements. And so again, where you're talking about all the six friends and everything, but specifically with Tegan and Dominic, I mean, were there certain elements that you felt you really needed to bring to this for them to reconnect and be able to overcome the different challenges that they had had?
I like the fact that, she was once, a former, tennis star in her own right, like a Serena Williams, if you will. And, but, an injury, sometimes you don't, overcome those injuries and you have to move on with life. So I loved that element, but yet he had become really super famous, and so I was looking, doing my research about, some of the legendary male tennis stars and so forth. So I was just trying to, I felt like having that juxtaposition would be a good, a former tennis star and, a current tennis star.
And with writing this one as your 50th, how much do you feel this was different? And how do you feel that you've really evolved over the course of your career? Because again, going back to the very beginning, what we haven't touched on, you started writing as a teen. I mean, even earlier than a teen. I think I read 12 was when you
Yeah,
first
I started
cracked
writing when I
your.
was 12. Yeah. I should have pulled some copies of my old handwritten 12-year-old books. Those are hilarious. I still have them, by the way. But I'll do that in the after party. But yeah, I started writing when I was 12. I was writing all handwritten, and then, I took a little break. I went to college. I wrote for the newspaper and I was dabbling in journalism, but ultimately fiction is what spoke to me. And I definitely think I'm a much better. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love One Magic Moment. It's my first book, first published book, no less. And, most of my career has been in traditional publishing by having a publisher, though I have, done some, maybe a dozen, self-pub books. But yeah, I just think I've evolved. I'm a better storyteller, or at least I think so. Maybe my readers could weigh in on that, but I definitely think I'm a better storyteller. The characters and just showing, their strengths, their weaknesses, their flaws. So I think my characterization is much better, my storytelling. So and I think I'm better now, because I've done so many series as well, be it with Kamani or Harlequin Desire, and now finishing off with Afterglow. So I think I've been able to kind of keep track. So I keep like a story Bible. So I can just kind of go back and look at what happened in the previous 5 books to get to Breakpoint. How did Tegan behave? What, even as how did we describe her hair color? And, so I think I've become better at keeping track of those than maybe I did in the early years. So I'm definitely much more of a plotter than I am a pantser.
And being a plotter, do you tend to think then in terms of the entire series, or are
Absolutely.
you still focused really more on a book by book?
I definitely thought of the whole series overall because I knew that this friendship arc would carry throughout the whole book, and I wanted to make that sure that thread was very strong throughout all 6 books. But then individually, each character had to stand alone. So if you read Breakpoint, even if you hadn't read the first 5, I don't think you would feel like you're missing out, but you might be like, I want to know what those other, ladies, Shay and Asia and Winter, and Egypt all did. So I think it just makes you curious to want to know more, but I don't think you necessarily have to say, oh, you've got to, read the previous book before it, but it makes you hungry for more.
So when you're keeping essentially like your story diaries then and organizing all of it, is it one big folder, so to speak, for the entire series? Do you have individual ones just for the book?
It's one giant folder for the 6 gems, but then each book has its own individual folder with character inspiration, all the facts about, each character, what happened in the previous books, because you kind of have to tie in, we've got marriage after 5, 5 previous books, you got marriage and babies and, what's their name and how old are they? And, so kind of keeping track of that. And I literally have like an Excel spreadsheet with keeping track of names and, and sisters and siblings and everything like that. But it was a lot of fun.
And how does all of that, I mean, does it just kind of constantly reside in your head then? I mean, in addition to actually having the Excel spreadsheets, because I'd be lost without my Excel spreadsheet. So I
I
get
love
that.
my Excel spreadsheet.
But I mean, are they all basically still living their lives in your head? And it's like, well, yeah, because I know that, this couple is here and this is where the babies are. And, they're all
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, because I feel like they're my best friends too, because I've grown with them over the course of all of these books. Each of them, you're watching them find their love or being sad when another friend, because Tegan was like the last one. So here she is, she's seen all her previous, all her besties find love and find their partner. And here she is, the last one. And she's like, well, I'm a boss babe. I don't need anyone, I don't need anything after Dominic. And, but, there's nothing like that second chance at love.
And of the series, and I know this is almost like having to pick a favorite child or something, but let me, yes, not a favorite character, your favorite trope in all of these. I mean, again, you've got these, I mean, they're having to overcome different
It was a lot of different, I was all over the place, I think, more than I normally am. I did amnesia for the first time in Her Secret Billionaire. That's something that was a trope I'd never used before. So that was pretty interesting. I had finding your biological parent and being adopted and dealing with that and going toe to toe. In Breakpoint, dealing with, kind of emotional abuse, not maybe physical abuse that her mother and Tegan herself went through with her father, but just kind of having that emotional and emotional abuse and dealing with your mental health and how do you deal with those. So there were a lot of cool tropes, I think, that I pulled out of the hat on some of these in this particular series that I'm very proud of.
well, how do you find that balance? Because in all of these, I mean, there are significant issues that the characters are having to deal with. So how do you get some of these heavy subjects and things and write it so people can still relate to it, but that it's not drowning the romance element and the uplifting portion of it?
Yeah, I definitely think it's difficult. I just, I try, you want to show their vulnerability, but yet, yeah, finding that balance of that, they're a survivor, they are strong, independent women. They're all starting their own businesses and, running their own expanding yoga studios and running their own real estate company like Tegan is. So I tried to balance it with, yes, there's this deep emotional component, but you have their career that's very important to them, establishing their new business, but then you also have that, romance element. So I try to balance it by spreading it out across, and then you have the best friend element. So I tried to balance it by, not focusing too much on one thing, but just kind of layering the characterization.
Mhm. And do you find that you're doing that in your initial pass, or because of the different layers, is it multiple passes? You're having to go back. Oh, okay, I need more angst here, or this part wasn't fully fleshed out, or oh no, this has gotten a little bit too heavy. I need some kind of comedic relief right here.
Yeah, sometimes. And it's great when you have you have an editor that kind of comes through and, because we go through at least 3, 4 passes of this book before you guys, get a chance to get a hold of it. The passes, and that doesn't include the passes before I sent it in. That's the passes after, the 3, 4 passes after I've sent it in. So it goes through 3 or 4 passes then. So I think I've been, very privileged to have a great editor that helps me with that. But I think now that I'm so seasoned after 50, that I kind of know and pick up on, okay, this is lacking. Because I think I'll probably read the book half a dozen times or more. So by the end of it, I really, really know the characters quite well.
Well, and with this being number six, and the last couple here, what about additional inspiration? Where are you getting those ideas? I mean, and especially, is it for when you travel? Is it just people that you know, circumstances, a news story? How do you still
Sometimes
find that after all this time?
right? I've been doing this like 2 decades. But interestingly enough, when I either watch a movie, I watch a TV show, I hear friends talking, I hear a story, I read something that maybe like, oh, I can do something a little bit with that or do something different or add a different concept to that. So I actually keep in my phone a note section in my phone, and I put in ideas. So I have a running log of book ideas in my phone that I can go to at any one point. And I also have, I mentioned this in another interview, I actually have a photo album with character inspiration. So I have
Oh,
actors, actresses, movie stars, singers, and I'll just take their picture and I'll put it in my character inspiration. And as I decide to write a book, I'll be like, that person really reminds me of who Tegan should be. And in my mind, Tegan was Tamron Hall. I don't know why she had the short haircut. I loved her talk show and she's so fun and feisty. And so in my mind, a few years ago, I was like, yeah, she's going to be Tegan. So that's who I came up with in my mind as my character inspo for Tegan. And then DB Woodside, he was in the show Suits. Suits got really popular on Netflix. And I was watching it though on when it was on USA Today, which is
back in the
hilarious.
USA days, yeah.
Yeah, so nobody knew about it back then, but now it's on Netflix. I mean, they're doing a spinoff right now on NBC, and I'm like, what? But it was a character from there. And so I just put it in my little photo album. And so I just kind of rely on my notes and going back to my character inspo. And that will sometimes help me flesh out an idea that I might.
Okay, now my one aside is, see, I remember DB Woodside from when he was on Buffy.
Oh,
That's
yes.
when I first saw him.
Yes.
This man.
I was a Buffy girl. So yes, I do remember him from Buffy.
That's where I'm always interested is that inspiration. So here you're keeping these different notes. Is it just a case of, are you pulling it out and then looking at it as to, okay, what's really striking me? And, oh, I can go off on this tangent. Or is it like you said, oh, well, okay, I have this
Sometimes,
character in mind. And,
yeah, sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll sit on it for years and don't do anything with it.
hmm,
Um, and then other times, the Six Gems idea came to me just from a girls trip during COVID. Me and my best friends couldn't get together. And then finally, especially during 2020, by middle of 2021, end of 2021, we decided let's do a girls trip to a cabin in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And so we got together and, around the campfire and wine and s'mores and everything else. I was like, oh, well, there's 6 of us. Oh, I think I'm going to write a book about 6 besties. So the idea just came from being there with my best friends. And then, but from there, I did rely on some of my notes on, I always wanted to write about yoga and ballet. And so those were some ideas I previously had. And so I just like, what character will fit, I kind of looked at the notes and that's kind of how I came up with the idea for the Six Gems books.
Okay, now you got to spill. All right. So if the initial inspiration came from this girls' trip with the
Yeah.
six of you sitting around the campfire and everything, did you put in your own Easter eggs, so to speak, of your group of friends with each of the characters? You don't
I
have to give details, but are there little bits there as kind of an homage?
yeah, I think if some of my besties look, they might find a little bit of themselves in a character. I think I'm probably me personally, I'm probably closest to Winter. She's the writer, she's the travel vlogger. So yeah, if you I would probably say I'm probably the closest to Winter if you were to look at that for sure.
That's just some extra little fun.
It is. And I love travel. That you said that in my intro. That's kind of like my second love. So and that's kind of what I tried to do a little bit in some of the books where the girls like to travel together and so I tried to carry that element through the books too. And that's a little bit about what me and my best friends do too. We try to get together and have a trip a year.
And how do you balance all of this then? Okay, so you're spending time with your besties. I mean, you're going on adventures with your husband. I mean, like you said, you've still got a day job. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on.
I don't know how I do it. Some of my friends are like, "How do you do it? Do you sleep?" I compartmentalize, and I've been very blessed that even though I have a high stress job, I have great people underneath me. So pretty much when I leave at 5, I can come home. I can come here to my beautiful, great she study, and get down to writing after work or on the weekends. That's how I balanced all these years being an author. A few hours after work, and then a lot Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm so blessed that my husband be like, "Hey, I'm basically going to work 9 to 5 in my office on Saturday and Sunday. But 5 p.m., I'm all yours." But the
Do you
great
find
part
you need
about
tricks to get into the right mindset, or is it just like you said, I'm working 9 to 5
I have to
and
turn
you're
it
set?
off as I'm driving home, especially if I was under deadline for a book. I'm leaving work, I'm turning it off. Author mode, author hat comes on, and okay, it's time to write about Tegan and Dominic and what kept them apart. And so yeah, I put on it's literally compartmentalizing, and so I think I'm good at doing that. I think I'm very good at compartmentalizing.
Well, I want to switch over to what we call our fresh fiction facts
Ooh,
series of random questions kind of off the top of your head.
okay.
And I want to start kind of with some of your adventures and the thrill seeking.
All
What
right.
is the biggest, I'll say, adrenaline activity that you still want to do that you haven't done yet?
I still want to what's that paraglide? And I wish I would have done it in Cape Town because they're really known for that. And so we just kind of ran out of time when I was in Africa last year. We went for 2 weeks and we were just trying to see wine country and seeing, Robben Island and all those places. And I wish I would have had time. I think it's paragliding. It's where you're like on a thing and you're just kind of you fly off a mountain or something. But yeah, that's the one.
See, that's one of those things I never really do, so I don't really know the details. That's okay.
Paragliding.
One of those, I get nervous just watching the videos of them. So it's like, okay.
But the one I always remember is whitewater rafting because my best friend fell out of the whitewater raft and I had to throw her a raft in the middle of the
I
rapids.
have heard of more people that get tossed out of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the one I remember the most. Yeah.
What is your favorite place to vacation?
Favorite place to vacation? Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. Two, I really like, I'm just going to put it out there. I love Dubai. It was my 50th birthday. I went, a year ago, and it was freaking amazing. I did a desert photo dress shoot. We ate dinner in the sky where they lift you by crane. We did a desert safari and rode camels. I mean, we did a ski Dubai where they have a ski a snow park inside a mall, and we did skiing and snow stuff in the middle of the, it's 95 degrees outside, but you go inside a mall and you got a ski park. Yeah, I absolutely adore Dubai. I would do it all over again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it
Okay,
was amazing.
completely other end of the spectrum then is what is your favorite go-to road snack from the local gas station? When you're on a road trip, what is that snack that
Oh,
you
on a
always got to
day trip.
grab?
M&Ms. I don't know what it is about, but peanut. It's got to be peanut. Got to be peanut M&Ms.
See, I go from Dubai to like Circle K. It's like
Different
gotta get
end
it
of the
all in there.
spectrum. Hilarious.
Okay, what was your first magazine, book, or box subscription?
Oh, I think it was probably Soap Opera Digest. If you even remember that, but I loved my soap operas. I was so bad. And so I grew up watching them with my mama, and I watched all my children and General Hospital and One Life to Live, and I just watched them all. And so Days of Our Lives, and I just loved reading up on, my actors and actresses and what was coming next on the soaps.
So, with that, of course, then who is your favorite soap opera diva?
Woo! Oh, of course, everybody loved Erica Kane. So who can not love Erica
Alucci, yes.
Lucci? And I got to meet her. What's super great about that is they used to have Super Soap Weekend here at Disney World, and so they would come for about a decade. They came every year to MGM Studios, and all the soap stars from ABC would come, and you would get a chance to meet them. So I got to meet Kelly Ripa, Ryan Cameron Madison, a lot of the soap stars, including Susan Lucci. And I got to, I got close to Luke and Laura. They were like right there, and I just kind of took a picture with them. But those were fun times. I love them. And I probably
That's it. I couldn't do that one. Because we had the cast of Days of Our Lives that came through once when they were promoting a book, and I was like, I can't. I don't want to break that fourth wall because Deidre Hall is Marlena Evans. I'm like,
yes,
I
she
don't, I
is.
don't care. I
And
mean, I've watched these people for 40 something years.
same,
That's who
same.
they will be. But I get the Susan Lucci. I met her, and that I did go gaga there. I mean, somebody actually had to come over and say, okay, other people want their picture taken with her, so you need to come away now.
And I actually love Sonny Carithos on General Hospital, so I got to meet him in person, and that was like the bomb.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh gosh, we could just go. I mean, yes, I am a soap junkie. My only saving grace is so many of them are now off the air that
Same.
I've
I used to
transitioned to
be
all my
posting them.
Real
I remember in
Housewives
college,
instead.
I'd be going back and forth. Oh, I got to run from class to try to get that soap opera. So it's hilarious.
Yes, the best thing for me in college was the NBC soaps. They would broadcast over the radio,
Oh,
and so I'd sit in the computer lab and listen to Days of Our Lives just through my
wow.
headphones.
That was neat. Yeah, I didn't know about that. I don't think I knew about that in Chicago.
It's okay because I knew all of them. I was like, this is great. This works. Yeah. Okay, back to the question. Um, Other than books, what is something that you own a ridiculous amount of?
CDs. I know, obviously, the last decade or so, it's all about, streaming and down, pop, streaming music and so forth. But before those days, us older generations, since I'm in my 50s, I have cases of CDs, cases.
Oh yeah.
And I think a fair amount. I don't have as many VHSs anymore, but I do think I've got a good amount of like CDs and Blu-ray of movies and stuff. So yeah, I've got a good collection of both of those and listening CDs.
Yeah. Who was your favorite comedian growing up?
Eddie Murphy, for sure, for sure. Loved him. Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah, definitely Eddie Murphy.
You've been kidnapped, but they return you 2 hours later because you will not stop talking about what?
Oh, that's a good one. Travel. They're tired of me talking about my next trip, so you got to get me back for my next trip.
How about if you came with a warning label, what would it say?
She plans too much. Because I do. I plan everything. I have a list for everything. So yeah. Most of
If you
my
could, oh, go
I
ahead.
would say this one little thing. Yeah. When we go on vacation, everybody gets a spreadsheet with us, a spreadsheet itinerary.
No way.
They do every single trip. My husband, he knows.
That's good. Now the question is, does everybody then stick to it?
Yes. And the one time I did not bring, because my friends made fun of me, my besties made fun of me for their spreadsheet itineraries. And we went to Vegas and I didn't bring one. And they're all looking at me like, where's the spreadsheet? We don't. I was like, well, I guess you're going to have to look on your phone and find out what time things open and when are we going to do it. And maybe we won't get to that activity. So yeah, they missed my spreadsheet.
Oh man. Evil. Evil with that. Gosh. Would you rather go back in time and meet your ancestors or go forward and meet your descendants?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think I would like to go back in time. I think, being, African American and seeing what our ancestors came from and what they endured. And I would just I would want to know about their strength and their willpower. And yeah, I would love to talk about them on maybe what should be thinking about differently now. Definitely go back.
If you could go back and uninvent something, what would it be? That just kind of goes away.
Bell bottoms. I don't get it. I never got bell bottoms. I'm like, why? Why would anybody want to wear them? They just look odd. So, bell bottoms.
What is your most dog-eared reread book? The one that you just keep going back to, either for pleasure or for research?
I think there's a couple that I like, but there's mostly Brenda Jackson. I really love Brenda Jackson. If you've ever read any of her books, her several in her Madra series, like Tonight and Forever, and yeah, they're just a couple of her. Delaney's Desert Chic, loved that one. Loved that one. I don't know why. Maybe that was the first time she was doing a book with a shake, and I was like, ooh. So yeah, I really like that one. Good, give me a good
We all
shake.
have a couple of those chic books, right, in the background.
Yeah, and I loved them. I don't know why. I still like them. I don't know. That's my thing. It's my jam.
Well, and our readers and listeners and viewers always want to know, because this is just how we are. What are you working on next? What can we look forward to?
I actually, believe it or not, am taking a little hiatus. I hate to say it. So, yeah, a little hiatus. I do have a couple of things on the back burner that I'm not ready to share yet. So I'm taking a little 6 month hiatus. I don't know, hitting 50 after 20 years is like a little bit momentous and I kind of want to enjoy it. So what I am doing though is I am having a 50th book party celebration with my family and friends, and that's coming up in April. And I think after that, then I'll kind of hit the ground running and keep moving on.
Oh, that's awesome. And that is awesome that you are doing that. I mean, like you said, it's a big occasion. You should take some time to really appreciate that. It's a
Yeah, I
big
just want
deal.
to kind of luxuriate in it a little bit.
Well, since you are taking the hiatus, then where is the best place for everyone to keep up with you, find out what you will be working on,
Yes,
when we can see the news, or maybe some pictures of the big celebration?
absolutely. Definitely go to my website and sign up for my newsletter because that is where I will be, keeping you in the loop on what's coming up next with Yahrah St. John, or YSJ, as I like to say. And also on my Facebook and social media channels. I'm basically Facebook and Instagram is my most used social media platforms, and you can find me on there. I post all the time.
Awesome.
And
Yara,
that's
thanks
at
again
Yahrah
for,
St. John.
hey, okay, so repeat that again because I spoke over it.
My apologies. Yes, at Yahrah St. John is
See,
the
these
handle.
are the critical things. We've got to make sure we've got it on the recording so everybody can check it out. And with
Yeah.
that, for people, if you have not read this latest book, be sure go out, get your copy of Breakpoint, find out how the 6 gems, it all gets wrapped up. And then there's a lot, as you've heard, there is a lot of backlist of Yara's that you can also go back and read until she puts out that next book. Yara, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.